Suspected cases amongst illegal traders. West Sepik keeps markets and public areas closed. And where do the homeless go?
This is National EMTV News with Neville Choi.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Sunday's news. At least 16 people in Suki, Kaviananga and Milawa areas of South and Middle Fly districts have been identified as persons of interest after they showed flu-like symptoms and were suspected of COVID-19. These 16 people were reported to have returned from Indonesia after illegal trading in Aseki on the 1st of April. According to police intelligence reports from the southern PNG-Indonesian border, a team of medical officers who arrived in Daru on Friday will travel to Suki to collect samples from the 16 persons of interest. Suki and Milawa villages are located along the Fly River. Thus, it will take hours to reach if the team travels by dinghy or just minutes if the police officers fly in on a chopper. As efforts intensify against the pandemic, the PNG government has decided to keep all borders closed, at least for the next 2 months. With Indonesian officials reporting its first death of COVID-19 case in West Papua, Papua New Guineans have been called on for tighter security presence along the PNG-Indonesian border. Prime Minister James Marape announced during the special parliamentary sitting last Thursday plans to establish testing facilities at Wayam and Kiunga in Western and Telefomin in West Sepik.
This is a necessary step to ensure that we mitigate potential harm that the spread of the virus may cause and to allow government agencies to implement urgent and ongoing measures to protect all Papua New Guineans, and I repeat, all Papua New Guineans. Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 virus does not discriminate.
Since last Friday, PNGDF soldiers and police have been deployed to West Sepik and Western, the two border provinces sharing land and sea borders with Indonesia. Whilst this is part of the normal PNGDF border operations, more emphasis will be given on tighter travel restrictions on border crossings, the extension of the state of emergency and precautionary measures against COVID-19. Meanwhile, at the provincial level, under the SOE orders issued by the controller, provincial authorities may take additional measures, such as imposing curfews or fines to implement emergency orders.
There's been much talk about the breach of restrictions. There are strict penalties for any person or company who breach the SO emergency orders, or which were issued, and others that will be forthcoming in the near future. And let me remind both individuals and companies or organizations that they're quite hefty penalties, both for individuals as well as companies that breach emergency orders, and these are again put in place to ensure that we continue to defend ourselves and protect ourselves against any potential spread of COVID-19. Any deliberate disregard or breach of those restrictions, as I said, will incur a hefty both monetary fine as well as potentially up to life imprisonment.
They have also set up isolation facilities in preparation of any COVID-19 case that may be declared in either of the provinces. The West Sepik Provincial Interagency Committee for COVID-19 Response has kept to its SOE orders to have main markets and public areas closed. With the SOE extension passed on Thursday, the committee has issued supplementary orders to continue the closure of urban markets throughout the province, with essential services to operate under strict guidelines. The committee has been hard at work carrying out awareness programs throughout the province, including setting up small roadblocks in the provincial capital, along with a total ban on border crossings.
As the country looks to start the first week of the 2-month extension, border provinces like West Sepik have issued supplementary SOE orders to continue the lockdown period. Main markets in urban areas to remain closed, with LLG ward community markets to remain open but encouraged to practice social distancing. Essential service providers like supermarkets and shops will operate. However, they have been advised to provide hand-washing sinks for their customers and also protective equipment and sanitizers for their employees. Public transport will allow to operate every Mondays to Thursdays, including motorized dinghies, to travel within districts only and not to other provinces. PNV operators are advised to minimize the number of passengers they carry, with Vanimo considered to be one of the country's high-risk areas, given its land border to Indonesia. Ward councillors have taken serious measures to stop people from travelling in and out of the district. With the support from the Vanimo Green District Development Authority, LLG wards in the district have set up checkpoints to monitor the movement of people.
Community or go out, community or no can come community from so we sit down, stop him or car, put him cone, all boys and up, me blow volunteer, me blow voluntary walk, help him out sick. Now, come on, want them.
Meanwhile, the interagency response team have successfully conducted awareness programs throughout the province. Proper testing facilities will be built, as was announced by the Prime Minister, with additional number of security personnel to be deployed for border protection. Stanley Over Jr., National EMTV News.
NCD Governor Powers Pakop says they are considering relief supplies for residents in the city, but it may take some time. Governor Pakop added that informal sector markets will be allocated in the city, but he gave an alternative of voluntary repatriation to rural areas as another solution.
The extension of the state of emergency in response to COVID-19 by the national government will place a further burden on some of the population, especially those who heavily rely on the informal sector. NCD Governor Powers Pakop says the country has fallen on hard times, but the city is considering some relief supplies for its citizens in the settlements, but it will not be right away.
Especially in the settlement, informal sectors, they've been reaching out to me as governor, also to my two colleagues here, members of parliament. So it's not easy for us to respond, but our people can be assured that we are considering this. If we go into that stage, we will work out a plan if we need to provide relief. At this time, I will not say that we are going to provide relief.
The task force did approve for certain locations to have organized informal sector markets, and Powers Pakop did say it was okay to sell from inside your premises, but traders must provide a hygienic environment, which includes sanitizers and hand washing instruments.
People who want to trade, if you don't have space in the formal markets and organized informal markets that we will be setting up, you can trade in your own house and control your own activity. Practice social distancing. Wash hands. If people come to buy from you, get them to wash their hands.
But the governor of NCD, Powers Pakop, is considering another alternative for the citizens of Port Moresby, and that is to voluntarily repatriate back to the rural areas of Papua New Guinea.
If you are under stress and you need to get help to sustain yourself, one of the ways that you can help yourself too is voluntary repatriation. You can go back to the place, place Kanaka. We can be able to access supplies from our garden, water out there, whatever, some help that can keep us going until the 2 months is over.
With Pakop's idea of voluntary repatriation somewhat ambiguous, considering the majority of the people need to fly out of the city, he is considering a way forward even for whole communities who want to repatriate.
Okay, he had Port Moresby to fly in and out, but this is something, at least on my part as governor, I am seriously considering. That if a community wants to repatriate voluntarily, I can consider this. I will share with my colleagues. I will share it with the national government too. But this is a time where people, you find it hard to live in the city, you can go back to your village. You can go back to your traditional setting where planting something is tough. City life is hard. You need money. Government is short of money now because economy is stopped. By me, look out the you blow on them.
Fidelis Sukina, National EMTV News.
Public motor vehicles will be allowed to run for commuters in the city of Port Moresby, but strict social distancing measures must be taken by the drivers and crew members or they face being arrested. The NCD COVID-19 task force team also says APEC buses are being considered to help commuters during the SOE extension period.
Public motor vehicles in the city, especially buses in Port Moresby, are expected to have a minimum of 15 passengers and also provide hand sanitizers for passengers starting tomorrow. If they breach the directives from the NCD COVID-19 task force team, they face arrest.
You come run, now you operate, now you abuse 15, buy me bla arrest you. All passenger blow you in a wasiman, buy me bla arrest you. We will arrest you owners and drivers and crew by me arresting you because you plan not keeping social distancing because you are going to risk our people. And the life of our people, their welfare is more important than your immediate needs to make money.
The lifting of the ban is a directive from the national government, but Governor Pakop is speculating that PMVs might not adhere to the restrictions and is encouraging bus owners to cease operation if necessary.
Our preference is that PMVs don't operate because I know they will not maintain the social distancing. Two, they will have this problem that if you only allow 15 passengers, it won't be profitable. So best way, no can spend in fuel, no need to spend money to pay for your offsider or the driver, and stable house. I'll be Mimilo stable house. So.
But NCD will also be looking to make use of the APEC buses parked at the harborside area to provide bus services for residents. And once routes are fixed and the SOE controller approves their proposal, the buses can operate.
This is an alternative that we are considering and we will announce by Monday. We will work out with the state of emergency controller, and if everybody is agreeable and the routes are fixed, they will be coming out.
The governor is also looking to have the women in the city have their usual Mary Safe buses on the road again as well.
This restriction putting a lot of pressure on women in our city, girls in our city who have to go to the market and so on. It's risky for them to walk a long distance, so we will probably allow the Mary Safe bus to operate again. Of course, social distancing.
Felix Sukina, National EMTV News.
The NCD COVID-19 task force team says personal protection equipment or PPEs for frontline workers in the fight against COVID-19 have been purchased. But there are donations expected also from China, Japan and the United States. Governor Pakop says donated PPEs from China arrived on Friday via Singapore.
We have purchased 500,000 worth of PPEs. So this is, what we have to do for our frontline officers. We working with the national government, but also we are going out of our own way to source PPEs. So there are donations coming from China. We'll probably receive donation from Japan, from the United States as well. Today too, I can announce too that we got some basics donation from China. It's arrived yesterday from Singapore.
The Isolation Center for COVID-19 patients at the Rita Flynn Netball Courts in Port Moresby is likely to be functional starting tomorrow. NCD Governor Powers Pakop says there are still some utilities which need to be installed before it is fully operational.
The Rita Flynn Isolation Facility for COVID-19 in Port Moresby is slowly getting equipped. This was made known by NCD Governor Powers Pakop.
Facility at the Rita Flynn, I have to be frank and honest to our people. At this time, we are not there yet to get one patient.
But Governor Pakop says the facility still needs the basic utilities and is expected to be pandemic ready by Monday.
So by Monday, if there's one patient, we will be able to have the capacity to take in one patient. There's some basic things that we need to do, like supply of water, supply of power, putting up some other tents, gas. So it's only basic things. And of course, putting the drug supply in the Rita Flynn as well.
Pakop explained that the facility was for isolating only infected patients of COVID-19 and not a quarantine facility.
Rita Flynn will be an isolation center. It won't be a quarantine center. So quarantine, I think national government come up with a different site for quarantine. So we are working together with the national government to confirm these quarantine areas. So quarantine, Muslim, you suspect, we quarantine you until we find out that you know got this virus. Isolation, Muslim, you simpinis na mibla by isolating you. Tambu kandre susai no can come, no go ksim.
Feli Sukina National EMTV News.
Still to come on National EMTV News, concerns raised on the homeless in the city, and Medang Business supports COVID-19 task force team in the province. Details after the break. Welcome back to the news. With an extension of the SOE for 2 more months, everyone will need to have a place to go. The question is, where will the homeless families who are on the streets of the National Capital District go should PNG get positive cases of COVID-19? Child and Family Welfare Services were out on the streets last night to meet with those who actually have no home.
Child and Welfare Services took to the streets last night to meet with homeless families and especially the children. Director Simon Yanis says, as director, he has emergency powers under the Lukautim Pikinini Act to help homeless kids going through hardship in terms of COVID-19. They will be taking the homeless children to 2 home cares they have in the city, including helping the homeless parents.
And I feel that it is the office responsibility to ensure that those children who are disadvantaged in terms of the orphanage children, those that are left on the streets need to be checked. That's why the office has actually done an inspection on the children on the streets.
While conducting inspections, his officers noted some differences. Mr. Yanis says during the 14-day lockdown, the children that were selling on the streets and traffic lights have all gone to their homes and parents.
They are not genuine street children. They are not genuine orphanage, as we have always talked about. The real genuine children are the few ones that were left living on the street to stay and to pen for. So we, as the mandated office for those children, has done this job to ensure that we are able to protect them and do some intervention to ensure that they are protected.
Dorothy Buka is from Atharo, however, has lived on the streets of Port Moresby for more than 20 years. With 3 homeless children she adopted. Her main source of income is through sales of betel nut and cigarettes. Right now, she has nowhere to go.
The only place we can think is Salvation Army, House of Hope in Ella Beach. But now I'm shut down. So I don't have to think more of the place.
Mr. Yanis says there will be penalties for parents of those children who sell products on the streets and traffic lights. Parents need to be responsible for their children.
They will be penalized and they will be imprisoned for 3 to 5 years to ensure that their children are protected.
As the Child and Family Welfare Services look to helping the homeless children and families, Ms. Buka made a request to the government and the welfare services. Lilian Sopera Kenea, National EMTV News.
Over 40 bags of betel nut, estimated by sellers to be worth over 10,000 kina, were confiscated by water police in the nation's capital this morning. The Buai traders were traveling on 2 banana boats loaded with their cargo when they were intercepted by police. The ban on betel nut is lockdown period has severely affected locals.
These Buai traders were traveling into the city on 2 loaded boats when they were intercepted by police at Kido outside Port Moresby. The Buai traders, all from Hanuabada village, were traveling back from Hisiu in Central Province when the police caught up with them.
Hisiu straight nakam. So mi plan lo. How mi plan stone pani money na paim na mi plan kam. Mi plan go. Rausim natin no stilim.
Despite the ban on buai in this lockdown period, people in the city are paying high prices for the betel nut. According to buai trader Vincent Gomara, they have been traveling this route for many years to buy buai from Hisiu, and this is business as usual for them.
So, Catherine
Kape is a single mother of two who depend mainly on the daily sale of buai to afford basic necessities. According to Catherine, a 10 kg bag of buai costs over 300 kina and 500 kina for bigger bags, totaling up to over 10,000 kina. And she has spent a lot just to transport these bags to the city.
I think we spent money on the bitona, so enough all helping me plan or will give him all helping me plan. Hello, give him back boy don't plan and flexing back money na me plan na poking care.
Since the announcement of the 14 days lockdown and the state of emergency in the country, police in the city have stepped up in their operations. Recently, many bags of buai were confiscated and destroyed by the police in separate operations. According to Assistant Commissioner NCDN Central Anthony Wagambi, the police is clamping down on unhealthy practices aimed at educating the people to be responsible in this time of national emergency.
Money here, buy looking money tomorrow. Life, you got one life, that's all. After that, only one life. When that life is taken away, you'll never have it again. Why the daka am sa grow and buy stuff? Money buy you. Money cannot buy your life.
Rayon Lakingu National, MTV News.
Morobe Provincial Health Authority Chairman David Wisink says acting CEO Grant Muddle will remain in his position for the next 3 months. This follows the Engau Hospital's staff petition requesting Muddle's immediate removal on Thursday based on various allegations. While the board has welcomed investigations into the matter, Wisink says cooperation is important with the current state of emergency.
The Morobe Provincial Health Authority's Board Chairman David Wisink said the decision to keep acting CEO Grant Muddle was based on consultations with other stakeholders. Amidst the coronavirus preparations and the state of emergency, Wisink said it is critical to have a stable management.
And given the crisis that the country is facing right now in the state of emergency, we felt it very prudent to stick with the management team that we have on board, not to change midstream. It's critical that there's stability at this time.
In December last year, Engau staff stopped work demanding that acting CEO Grant Muddle be removed because his contract had expired, staff annual entitlements had been delayed, and there were also other allegations made against him. Board Chairman David Wisink responded saying the recruitment process was underway. This week, staff were told that Muddle's reappointment had been extended. On Thursday, disgruntled staff demanded that Muddle be removed, saying their issue was overdue. They marched to the CEO's office and barricaded the doors.
He's going to go. Bottom line, he's going to go. Because we're fighting for our lives.
One of the concerns raised was the lack of personal protective equipment with the COVID-19 alerts, to which the acting CEO Grant Muddle refuted, saying there are supplies available.
Nurses throughout Morobe don't even have PPE, don't even have infection control items in place. We need to be directed by a leadership that can have an impact on the ground where people can feel it.
I think this is what we have, but it looks like this is also low already, or in some areas of the hospital they don't have it.
We have, in Morobe province, we have over 38,095 masks. We have over 12,000 disposable masks. We have over 400,000 pairs of gloves of various sizes. So we have a lot of PPE.
He also said COVID-19 preparations are being done with resources that are available.
But the plan we have is based on what's available, what we can deliver. And when I say available, it's equipment, consumables, manpower.
Lucy Kopana, National EMTV News, Leh.
The Medang Town Clinic will serve as a backup isolation center for the province. This is to cater for suspected cases if and when the outbreak of the deadly virus reaches Medang. Doctor in charge of the technical team in Medang, Dr. Martin Damien, says staff at the clinic have vacated the facility and are now operating at Kranget Island.
Medang Town Clinic is in the center of town and serves people living within the town area. For now, the clinic is closed to allow preparation work to start for the setup of another isolation ward as backup plan for the province. EMTV understands a business house has carried out the scope of work for the refurbishment and setting up of the isolation ward that will cost almost 270,000 kina.
The staff at the town clinic have already vacated the facility and they are now operating at Kranget Island.
Vice President of the Medang Chamber of Commerce, Chris Sito, says the business houses in Medang have formed a committee to support the COVID-19 technical team. They are also part of the technical team. However, the lack of funds has slowed their response. Mr. Sito says the business houses will still be part of the technical team in terms of supporting and contributing to get things off the ground.
But the strategies are in place. So the team is well prepared, being chaired by Dr. Damon. So that is in place and working fine.
The Medang COVID-19 response team is appealing to the member for Medang, Brian Kramer, to support the team to set up the isolation ward as backup for the province.
And we are appealing to our business communities and others, our members as well, open member for Medang Province Minister for Police. If he can assist from his DSIP would be very good, because that has to act as a backup plan. We need to have our facilities up and running towards preparedness plan for COVID.
Martha Louise, National EMTV News, Medang.
You're watching Sunday's News. We'll take a short break now, but more stories on the coronavirus making headlines overseas when we return. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas now, and the global death toll has almost surpassed 59,000 people, with the United Kingdom and New York suffering their deadliest day. There's even greater concern for those on the front line as hospitals reach full capacity and staff are falling victim to the virus.
684 deaths in just 24 hours in the UK. And these are two of the faces behind the chilling statistic.
I ask you to remember Amy and Arima. Please stay at home for them.
Nurses Amy O'Rourke and Arima Nazreen were both in their 30s, both mothers to 3 children, and both died from COVID-19.
The family are devastated, and I think the circumstances has made it very difficult because, of course, the children couldn't go up to her in intensive care. The family couldn't see her in intensive care.
7,000 medical staff have been tested for the virus this week. There's fears more could contract COVID-19, with warm spring temperatures enticing the public out of their bubbles. In the US, New York remains the virus epicenter, with the city's mayor describing this weekend as D-Day. The past 24 hours, its deadliest, with an average of 23 people dying every hour. Hospitals are scrambling to treat the growing number of patients, many forced to be treated in hallways, others now from a field hospital in Central Park.
We're really struggling, and at this point, we're really stretching and we're doing the best we can. We just worry what's going to happen with another 30, 40, 50,000 patients showing up on our hospital doors.
New York's biggest convention centre is being transformed into a makeshift hospital. The state's governor has also signed an order to transfer unused ventilators from other facilities and, if necessary, calling in the National Guard to do so.
I'm not going to let people die because we didn't redistribute ventilators.
And a major U-turn from America's Health Protection Agency, which is now recommending all people wear face masks in public. But President Donald Trump won't be taking the lead.
You can do it, you don't have to do it. I'm choosing not to do it.
Italy remains the hardest hit country, recording 766 new deaths, but a glimmer of hope as the rate of new infections continues to slow. In Spain, more than 11,000 people have now died. The military forced to use a temporary morgue in an ice rink to keep up with the influx of bodies. And coffin makers are struggling to meet demand. A grim reality other countries could be facing in the coming days.
The Queen will address the Commonwealth in a rare televised speech about coronavirus on Monday morning. The 93-year-old monarch has been in isolation at Windsor Castle since the virus outbreak began.
The Queen was last seen in public as she was driven away from Buckingham Palace last month when she relocated to Windsor early, just before the government lockdown. And it was in Windsor where she recorded what the palace called her special broadcast.
Outside Buckingham Palace, crowds gathered as the Queen...
Her previous televised addresses, and there have only been 4 in her 68-year reign, mostly took place at times of national crisis. In 1997, the Queen spoke on the eve of Princess Diana's funeral.
So what I say to you now, as your Queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart.
And in 2002, she addressed the country after the death of the Queen Mother.
I thank you also from my heart for the love you gave her during her life and the honour you now give her in death.
Her other broadcasts were on her Diamond Jubilee in 2012 and at the start of the First Gulf War in 1991. This Sunday will be only her 5th.
It's obviously the right moment for the Queen to talk to us. I think, apart from anything else, we'll be very glad to see that the Queen is well and at Windsor. I think that will be reassuring. And I think it's also very appropriate that she should talk to us at the beginning of Holy Week.
The royal family is subject to the same government orders as the rest of us during the lockdown, and that meant today, to open the new Nightingale Hospital for coronavirus patients, Prince Charles had to do a royal first, a virtual opening.
In this dark time, this place will be a shining light. It is symbolic of the selfless care and devoted service taking place in innumerable settings.
He did the speech remotely from the Balmoral estate in Scotland, where he is staying, on an iPad, propped up by some books.
The total number of COVID-19 infections may be rising, but there are some countries that may have control of the virus early. The likes of Taiwan and Hong Kong, they've kept cases low, and in some places, schools open.
The global grip of COVID-19 infecting more than 1 million people, and while some are losing the battle,
we do not want to be Italy.
Others in the fight are seeing success.
The people who are in quarantine period, if they violate the rule, they will be fined.
Taiwan took early and aggressive action at its borders, triaged on arrival this plane landing from the virus epicenter Wuhan. Taiwan has just under 350 cases of COVID-19. Its measures clear at the school gate, as one of only 6 countries worldwide where schools remain open.
We spray disinfectant already at the school gate and request people to disinfect their hands and feet, as well as getting their temperature taken.
Countries that have been through the SARS epidemic have responded well because they had well prepared and took their pandemic response plans very seriously.
New Zealand's former chief science advisor to the Prime Minister, Sir Peter Gluckman, says testing is key. Germany able to conduct 500,000 tests per week.
Test still is at the heart of management.
With a population of more than 7 million, Hong Kong has 845 COVID-19 cases, less than New Zealand. The country introducing electronic wristbands at its borders paired with smartphones.
We can use this app to track the location of the confinee.
Technology proving vital with an alert system in South Korea showing virus hotspots. Japan is now locking the gates to many popular parks and other public places, while the routine use of masks is believed by many Asian countries to have also contributed to their success.
We must take all the learnings we can.
A global effort against a virus which has no borders.
As countries around the world struggle to contain the deadly virus to fill this gap, many businesses are turning their attention to producing items like masks and ventilators.
Right now, this is the most wanted item in the world. Faced with a global ventilator shortage, a group of Italian engineers has turned a snorkel mask into a breathing aid for COVID-19 patients. Using a 3D printed valve, the mask can then be connected to other machines. Keen to make the design as accessible as possible, the company put it on their website and embedded a clause in the patent to stop any potential profiteers. It appears to be working, with Italians donating scuba masks to local pharmacies to be turned into the devices.
Many even started printing kits at home and delivered them to us. It's been a beautiful joint effort. It's in these difficult moments that the best comes out of us Italians.
Across the world, other companies are also joining the effort to replenish hospital supplies. Vacuum maker Dyson is working to fill a British government order for 10,000 ventilators, and brands such as Airbus and McLaren are also looking at manufacturing them. From racing cars to designing breathing devices, Formula One team Mercedes has helped develop an apparatus that could hopefully keep people out of intensive care. Meanwhile, in the US, businesses like General Motors, General Electric and Ford are aiming to make tens of thousands of medical units in the coming months.
I would never be able to live with myself if I didn't step up and do this, because I have the ability, I have the team, we have the resources here.
In Indonesia, a tailor is using her skills to make waterproof gowns for hospitals after witnessing workers wearing disposable raincoats as protective gear.
I was thinking, what can I do? Because I'd love to help, but I don't know what I can do since I'm not medical staff working on the front line. Then I saw on Twitter that medical staff needed protective suits, so I thought, that's something I can produce.
And while many workers are out of a job, this professional magician has turned his tricks into tools, using his 3D printer, normally used to make props, to make protective masks. Though at the moment he's only made them for friends, he's hoping to move on to pieces for hospital ventilators, helping everyone breathe a little easier.
As the toll mounts, laboratories around the world are racing to develop a vaccine. Some are taking the traditional approach, others highly experimental. One scientist says global collaboration is the key to success.
The quest is on, from this highly secure lab in Melbourne, which is about to start animal trials, to China and the United States, where volunteers are now part of the development of a COVID-19 vaccine.
It's not really about just me and you, it's about how this will affect the population as a whole.
These are people who are volunteering to be in a trial for a vaccine that's never been given to humans before, and so we take all the precautions we can take, but there's some inherent risk there.
It's a highly complicated process that our own vaccinologists are closely monitoring, impressed by global collaboration sparked by China's release of COVID-19's genetic code.
Laboratories that were working on one thing said, right, we're stopping, we're going to work on this now, and diverted their attentions. That was quite phenomenal to see.
A rapid response for a virus that could prove difficult to eliminate.
There are many epidemiologists who think that the virus is likely to become globally endemic and be with us in perpetuity.
At the forefront of new vaccine technology, one that uses part of COVID-19's genetic code, the blue spiral seen here. It prompts the body into producing a protein that replicates the outer spike of COVID-19. This newly produced protein triggers antibody production to fight the virus. Another vaccine introduces a different virus carrying the genetic instructions for the COVID-19 outer spike. It triggers the body into thinking it's coronavirus, also generating antibodies in the process. A fully tested vaccine is expected to be at least 12 months away, and a global rollout will take time.
The supply would be such that we would need, I think, ethically to prioritize it for those who were at highest risk.
Saving lives, the priority for the world's scientists racing to develop a safe vaccine.
American soul singer Bill Withers, who wrote Ain't No Sunshine, Lovely Day, and Just the Two of Us, has died of heart complications. But his death comes amid resurgence in his most famous song, Lean on Me, which has become somewhat of an anthem for people trapped in lockdown around the world.
That voice, those words, the ingredients for timeless hits.
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone.
Bill Withers didn't take the usual route into music. A late bloomer, he started knocking on doors at the age of 32, looking for a career change.
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. She's always gone too long.
Songs are to the music business like beef is to the hamburger business. You know, if you don't have a song, that's where it all starts.
He'd spent 9 years in the Navy and was a factory worker making toilets for aircraft when he started writing.
So if you've ever been to the bathroom on the 747, I know you very well.
In 1971, he hit the charts with Ain't No Sunshine. Then came hit
Just the two of us.
after hit. His songs lauded for their intimacy and honesty.
Oh, you just keep on using me.
But after his last album in 1985, he simply walked away,
Just the two of us.
leaving it to others to keep his poetry alive.
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. We all need somebody to lean on.
In 2016, Stevie Wonder inducted Withers into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Steve said I could be his assistant arpeggio player.
His devastated family said today that his music spoke honestly to people and connected them to each other. And one song in particular has felt more relevant than ever in recent weeks. Bill Withers was 81.
You're watching Sunday's News. True Guy Sports is next. Don't go away.
True Guy Sports.
Welcome to True Guy Sports. Kickboxing manager for Marksman Fight Promotions, Michael John, says 2 PNG fighters stranded in Sydney are safe and in close contact with their families at home. John says with the current lockdown in Australia, it is unlikely the fighters will return home anytime soon due to the global pandemic. Godwin Eke reports.
It is almost 4 weeks since Moses Roper and Nelson Sampson left PNG for Sydney, Australia to compete in a title bout. Today, manager Michael John told MTV Sports that he is communicating with the 2 fighters and keeping them updated with the situation back home and updating their families on current state of the kickboxers, what they are doing to protect themselves from COVID-19 whilst the country is on lockdown.
International flights, I think they are still under lockdown situation. So all our boys down there in Sydney who went down for the kickboxing event, it's a pretty difficult situation. I don't know how we will bring them back. We've sent them tickets, but then the tickets cannot be utilized to fly back because of this lockdown and the cancellation of all international flights to and from. So our boys are stuck down there.
He says it is a burden on one of their fellow fighter, Freddie Marai, who's taking full responsibility of the fighters with accommodation and food.
Freddie is having a difficult time trying to look after all of these guys. You think him? This other guy from Nandek's team too, I think he went down there, and then he's also with Freddie. And Freddie, the last I heard from Freddie was he was also laid off because of the COVID-19 virus situation down in Sydney. Sydney is one of the worst affected cities in Australia. So they have all been, Freddie's been laid off. He's the guy who's looking after all these guys in terms of food and accommodation.
He says the fighters want to come back to PNG, but there is nothing they can do at present time. John says he is listening intently, hoping when the international flights will resume. He says currently the boys are stuck in Australia. John is currently in close communication with the families of the fighters.
The families, Mark was in contact with Moses' family here, and I've been in contact with Nelson's family. He's just a block, 2 blocks away from where I am, so I've been keeping them updated of the situation and telling them that because of this COVID-19 case, the boys are still down there and there's nothing very much we could do. The only thing we've done is we've sent them tickets for their return. I really feel for my boys and their families, wives and kids who are here. It's a very unfortunate situation. So yes, we have been in touch with their families and we've been keeping them updated of what's happening, and there's pretty much we cannot do anything.
Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
And True Guy Sports continues after this break. Stay tuned.
True Guy Sports.
Welcome back to True Guy Sports. One of New Zealand's rowers who was a catalyst in the sport's modern-day surge has died aged 60. He won an Olympic bronze medal more than 30 years ago, then went on to help a generation of rowers reach success.
This proved to be Eric Verdonk's final public appearance, awarded Rowing New Zealand's Legacy Medal in February.
He always made time. He was always, the things he had to say were worth listening to.
With his long blonde locks and chiselled jaw, Verdonk became a New Zealand rowing icon in the 80s, originally picked as a reserve for the men's 8.
A manager, Dudley Story, sort of threw him a carrot and said that if you can sit on the bow of the 8, I'll let you row in the Commonwealth Games.
It's there where Verdonk mastered the single scull.
The 8 would eventually get past, and he would look out and smirk as we finally rolled over the top of him.
He went on to be the first Kiwi to win the famous Henley Diamond Sculls in England, then a bronze at the 1986 Edinburgh Commonwealth Games, but the highlight, bronze at the 1988 Seoul Olympics.
He was really technical. He was competing against guys that were bigger and possibly had more horsepower, so he had to be really clever about how he raced.
That medal inspiring future Olympians. Along with world-class success, he was a 15-time national champion across various boats.
The good old Dutch influence comes in and makes them hard as nails, and they just keep going as hard as they can. And what a great guy to have in the bow of the boat with him.
And from the banks, he'd been the driving success behind the Takapuna Grammar Rowing Club in recent years. Olympian, coach, motorbike mechanic, boat builder and World Masters rower. You name it, Verdonk did it, and brought the same determination to tackling his battle with cancer.
And True Guy Sports ends there. Up next, the weather details for the next 24 hours. Stay tuned.
True Guy Sports. True Guy Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always. And the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow. In the southern region, all centers mostly fine. In the Momase region, partly cloudy with chance of showers developing for Lae, cloudy with a shower or 2 for Madang, cloudy with a few showers for Wewak, and Vanimo expecting partly cloudy weather with showers developing. To the New Guinea Islands, Lorengau and Kavieng partly cloudy with a chance of showers developing, Kokopo and Rabaul cloudy with afternoon showers, and Kimber and Buka cloudy with a shower or 2. To the Highlands region, morning fog clearing, then mostly fine and partly cloudy for Mount Hagen. Morning fog clearing, that is, afternoon showers for Goroka and Kundiawa. And for Mendi and Wabeg, morning fog clearing, then showers developing. Forecast for small ships. There is a renewal strong wind warning for all coastal waters from Wewak to Medang to East Sepik, to East and West New Britain, that is to Bougainville and Milne Bay Province, including Solomon and Bismarck Seas. Strong northwest winds of 25 to 33 knots are expected to continue for the next 6 to 12 hours. All small crafts and boats are advised to take necessary precautions before going out to sea. Forecast for small crafts for the next 24 hours. Renewal strong wind warning for the coastal waters of Wewak to Medang to East and West New Britain, Bougainville and Milne Bay, including Solomon and Bismarck Seas. Waters of southern PNG, Indonesian border to Daru, to Yule Island, to Hood Point, Aroma Coast, with waters of Manus and its western group of islands, seas 0.5 to 1.5 meters. Waters of East Cape to Cape Vogel to Finschhafen, seas 0.5 to 1.3 meters. Waters of Finschhafen through Vitius, Dampier Straits to Siassi, islands to Long Island, with waters of East and West New Britain and New Ireland, seas 1 to 2 meters. And waters of Long Island to Medang to Bogia to Wewak to Aitape to northern PNG, Indonesian border, with waters of, and Bougainville, with waters of Samurai and eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, seas 1 to 2.5 meters. Ocean forecast for PNG areas. Coral seas, seas slight to moderate with southeast to southwest winds at 10 to 20 knots. Solomon seas, seas rough to high seas with southwest winds at 25 to 33 knots. Bismarck seas, seas moderate to fresh with northwest winds at 15 to 25 knots, increasing to 33 knots. And in the Pacific Ocean, seas slight to moderate with northwest winds at 10 to 20 knots. The weather update was proudly brought to you by MoneyPlus, with you always. And that's the news, sports and weather for today, Sunday, the 5th of April, 2020. On behalf of the entire MTV News team around the country, have a safe week, pleasant viewing, good night.